everyone's all good? I'll give you a second. It's a bit bigger than usual. Is that to make sure I'm properly mic'd? Yeah. Okay. Please fire away, anyone.
You had a look at the NAT's agricultural policy. What do you make of them wanting to review the ETS agriculture into the ETS and the methane target in the zero carbon bill?
Yeah. From what I've seen, the policy that's been put out by the National Party would take New Zealand back decades and frankly is a change in policy we previously had from the National Party and across political parties consensus around climate change and it is hugely disappointing to see that change in position from them. Well, essentially on issues like climate change, we did have consensus. To now see the National Party change its position is deeply disappointing. It takes New Zealand backwards. And I think it also hurts our brand, which we trade on and which we are growing our exports over. Well, I do think it would cause further, for instance, degradation of our waterways. It's fair to say that when we came into office, our waterways were in a terrible state. People couldn't swim without concern over getting sick. We made a pledge to do something about that, and we have, and we've done it working alongside our farming community. To see that work now being proposed to be unravelled by the National Party is very disappointing. Absolutely. We've been working alongside our primary sector to develop up these solutions. We have the same goal. Everyone wants to improve the quality of our waterways, and we're working together. We've said that we believe RMA reform is required. The reason for that is it has to both support urban development but also protect our environment. From the National Party, they are now coming in late to the party saying that they're going to undo the legislation. They didn't do anything in 9 years. I'm not sure what's different about their plan now.
Have they ever taken the farmers for granted?
No, absolutely not. In fact, that is one of the primary sector leaders are one of the groups that I have met frequently with through the course of finding solutions to challenges that every country is facing, including climate change. We have consensus on that issue now with our farming leaders. That took a lot of work, and it would be a shame to see that unravelled by backward-looking National Party policy. Of course, we do have within our legislation in New Zealand of course, provision that deal with hate speech, discrimination around people's different identities, but religion hasn't been included in that. My view is that does need to change, and that would be our plan if we were privileged enough to form government again. We haven't been able to deliver that last term, but my intention would be, if we're able to form government, that we would. I just think in a modern New Zealand, everyone would agree, no one should be discriminated for their religion. And so it makes sense that we add this to the suite of other things we say it is just not okay to discriminate people over. So the Human Rights Commission did a piece of work around the Human Rights Act, making sure that we codify across a different range of areas where you should not, cannot discriminate, and religion should be added to that. They've identified that, and we agree.
Any stronger hate speech laws to make it a crime to...
Of course, we do already have provision across different parts of our criminal justice code to consider it an exacerbating factor if that forms the basis of a crime. What I also think we need to make sure is that we are continually recording when these incidences occur. That's a really important call that's being made from the community as well.
Has New Zealand First been holding up that?
We haven't been able to progress change in this area, but that's something we're committing to as a Labour Party.
What do you think of a Memorial Day?
Sorry, a Memorial Day? Yeah, that's an issue that we've said we want to work alongside Christchurch City Council and of course the Muslim community around the way that we recognise March 15. There are differing views, and so with Council, with the Muslim community, with local iwi, I believe that we will be able to establish something that works for everyone. Megan Woods might have something further to say on that, given she's worked closely with the community.
I think that it is really important that we continue to work with the communities here in Christchurch around what they see as the most fitting way to remember those 51 people who lost their lives. And I know it's something that the Muslim communities, the council and Ngāi Tahu are eager to progress. Of course, we were going to have a memorial this year. That's one of the things that needed to be cancelled as we went up the levels with COVID.
Does Labour support Memorial Day every year, and would that be a public holiday?
Well, I think what we'll support and what the Prime Minister said is what the communities support in concert with the council and with Ngāi Tahu.
It's been fair to say that one of the proposals that has been brought forward by the community is for a day of acknowledgement that celebrates the inclusivity and diversity of New Zealand. So there are different views around the way that March 15 should be recognised going forward. And so those are things that we need to come together around, but I'm confident we'll find something that satisfies their desires and the local community. I'll come to you in just a moment. Yeah. It is fair to say that when it comes to religion, that is not the only area where it's being identified that we don't have complete legislation. So that is something that we believe needs to be resolved too. I say we take our lead from New Zealanders in this, our communities and our societies. New Zealanders, I don't believe, and I've seen time again, reject any idea that anyone should be discriminated for, who they are, their religion, their cultural or ethnic background. It's just not okay. And so I would have thought we'd have wide support for that. Well, I don't think there should be, and so that's probably a question for every political party, but that's certainly our view, and that's of course the view that I'm putting forward, is that change needs to occur. Of course, we are keeping our rugby teams in quarantine. What they're able to do is, while they're in quarantine, they are able to train, but they aren't able to have the freedoms that other people have outside of those facilities, because we still expect them to stay isolated from others. And there is an exemption regime for people who have sometimes devastating circumstances. There are very tight controls around how that operates, in the same way we have very tight controls for those who are coming in for those sporting fixtures.
You were just in Auckland for
I'll just come. Sorry?
What's the new historical COVID-19 cases?
Oh, they essentially confirm what we've already known and what interestingly New Zealand has been able to demonstrate, and that is the long time where someone who's been infected with COVID can still manifest in a test with COVID-19, despite obviously no longer being infectious or no longer being sick. We have seen some international writing on this, but I think because New Zealand has been so free of COVID, we're interestingly able to demonstrate that distance of infection. And again, we've seen now cases showing up from many months prior. Important to note that it's not an... Not at all. In fact, of course, we had border closures at the time that case was identified. I think it demonstrates what was happening in February, which was a very rapid global escalation as we saw COVID move through the globe. But if you look at the moves New Zealand made on borders, on quarantine, we were very, very quick against every measure in every country.
You were just in Auckland for the leaders' debate. Are you supposed to be taking level 2 with you? Can you clarify what you were...
Certainly what we've asked those who are coming from Auckland is to make sure that they're doing their best around things like large-scale gatherings and doing their best on hand sanitising, staying home if they're sick. That's what we ask everyone who is particularly from Auckland, but we ask it of everyone. And you can see that I try very hard not to shake hands. I, of course, sanitise. I would not be out on the campaign trail if I was unwell. We are not running our rallies for that reason, because for the fact that I've been based in Auckland, so we are working hard to maintain that.
Are you meant to be socially distancing though?
You can see the efforts that I make on the trail. You can also see it's not always easy. But again, I am in a level 1 environment, so everyone else, of course, doesn't have that expectation. Yes, it is. We've already ruled that out.
Do you think the Greens will they actually get to say if they have off-lights?
Yeah, well, look, actually, what I've said in an MMP environment when it comes to tax, I think people need certainty, which is why I've said that is not Labor's policy and that will not happen when Labor is, if we're able to form government. Yes, absolutely. Well, certainly the feedback I've got has been very, very positive. I think it's both an acknowledgement of a public holiday that is directly in keeping with New Zealand's identity, and Māori New Year. What better public holiday to acknowledge if we are making sure that we are looking to those milestones that are unique to New Zealand. So yeah, it's been very positive from what I've heard. Sorry? Oh. Look, and there will be those who have their own position, but certainly the majority of people I've come across have been very, very positive about it. Okay, I'll go the last couple. So, yeah, I'll come here if I...
Do you acknowledge the Canterbury District Health Board's financial position is mostly a result of the earthquake-related costs, in particular capital charges on new buildings? If not, as Chris Hipkins has indicated, why?
Well, no, I think there are a range of issues at play, but we are working as constructively as we can with both the clinical leadership and the DHB leadership to see resolution to those issues.
Will you waive those capital charges in recognition of the unique situation the DHB finds itself in following the... And
equally, based on the unique situation of Canterbury, there has been work and effort to make sure we are specifically funding those additional costs that the DHB may have experienced. So, for instance, mental health support. And so that's one way that we can try and acknowledge and ease some of the pressures that we know are specific here to Canterbury. Yeah? You'll be my last ones, yeah.
New Zealand Rugby experienced the All Blacks actually planned tests.
Yeah.
The 12 players are being quarantined for Christmas. Will you be calling Scott Morrison again to discuss, and would any consideration be given to allowing the All Blacks out of quarantine?
I understand that between Australia and New Zealand and their rugby unions, this discussions are still underway. But I think, again, it's fair to say there was an agreement that those games would conclude by the 6th of December. And if everyone sticks to that, then there wouldn't be an issue.
Housing policy, it wants to stop immigration until housing supply meets demand. Would you support that, and should Māori be prioritised for public housing?
Well, we have, for instance, programs, of course, refugee resettlement obligations, but also many skilled workers that contribute to New Zealand's economy. Our view is that, yes, we need to build more houses, and there is more work to be done to be housing everyone, but I do not believe that is the resolution to that issue. Building houses is.
Where should governing parties draw the line on campaigning? We've got Winston Peters out and campaigning for New Zealand First, but announcing PGF funding. You're here, which is a government infrastructure. Sure, but it's your campaign day and it's a government decision.
I think we have to be fair. Of course, a government is going to always acknowledge the things they've done in office to give a signal of where their priorities are, the values they have, and just give a signal of what people can expect in the future. No announcements here today, just an acknowledgement and investment that was important to us and a signal of the things that we want to keep going if we are re-elected. Oh, sure.
What's your view on that, and what's your message to them?
Well, my view is that a vaccine will be critical in the future to keep New Zealanders safe and to keep everybody safe. So we will be working hard to make sure that people have confidence in the vaccine. In fact, our vaccine strategy is based around making sure we're providing a safe, effective treatment to ensure that people are well. I don't believe we will have an issue with a large-scale anti-vaccination campaign or issue. We haven't had that in the past in New Zealand. We have good rates of vaccination, and I think that's because people understand what it's for. All right, thank you, everyone. Yeah, well, it was... I felt terrible that after 2 other attempts we haven't been able to make it happen, so I was pleased to see some old friends today too. I've seen people's recovery, which has taken some time, and to see, for instance, some who have previously struggled with walking, who are walking, some who talk about the pain having lessened physically. That shows the time that has passed, but I don't think anything's quite going to heal what happened.